Today on Clubhouse Gas, we're at Citizens Bank Park. In fact, we were there the night before the Philadelphia Phillies and reigning league MVP Jimmy Rollins clinched the National League East Division Championship. On hand also, Babe Ruth League Incorporated, and they're bestowing an honor on Jimmy Rollins, the inaugural Babe Ruth League Alumni Lifetime Achievement Award. Now, this award is given to Babe Ruth graduates for outstanding achievement in baseball on and off the field. On hand to deliver the award were Babe Ruth Incorporated President and CEO Stephen Tellefson and National Commissioner Rob Connor. Joining them on the field are Jimmy's parents, James and Gigi, who were honored in 2002 by the Babe Ruth League as Graduate Parents of the Year for their remarkable job in raising their son. I had the pleasure of speaking with the proud mama and papa. Was also honored myself when Jimmy invited me to hang out in the dugout with him, where we chatted about playing baseball as a youth and where his career has carried him and the lessons he learned from an encounter with Rickey Henderson.
He was very competitive and he worked really hard. We noticed that as a young child. I actually thought my husband was working him too much, but Jimmy enjoyed it, so I guess, it paid off. But he was very competitive and he always wanted to be the best, and it paid off.
Well, you guys have a lot to be proud of. Enjoy the game.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Nice meeting you.
Thank you so much.
It's a big honor.
You won an MVP last year,
Right.
but you're the first guy to ever win this award for all of Babe Ruth baseball. How's that feel?
That's pretty special. That's definitely something you could put up on the wall and tell your grandkids about, and leave a legacy. And hopefully, there'll be a number of great players that come out of Babe Ruth that can be awarded with this same honor.
Talk about your youth baseball experience. What was it like for you growing up playing baseball?
It was a lot of fun. I grew up, in the Oakland Bay area. We were at the Oakland A's there. They were winning World Series at the time. And we played probably about 2 miles down from the Oakland Coliseum. So growing up, playing the night games, you hear the roar from the crowd, and so you figured the A's were doing something good. But in my mind, they were roaring for us. My team was doing something good, so it was like, and every once in a while you get that perfect time, and you get a hit, and you hear the crowd over there, it's like they cheering for me. So in some part of your mind, you're already in the big leagues, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of great competition, and one thing about the Bay Area is that it's still rich in baseball, and that's a tradition that hopefully will continue.
So you're growing up just a couple of miles from McGuire and Canseco, bashing them out, and you hit your fair share of home runs, but there was also a guy stealing a few bases. How did that affect your game now as a guy who can hit the ball out, but also was one of the most prolific base stealers in the game?
That's my favorite ball player.
Rickey.
Yes, Rickey. I've had a chance to meet him a couple times. Actually, last year, he was my surprise at my MVP party. My dad brought him out to the house. They grew up at rival high school, shall we say. So they played against each other, lived in the same neighborhood, but the block split, so they had to go to different schools. But growing up, of course, I get a lot of my style from him. I mean, it's obvious. I steal bases. I think I learned how to slide head first by watching him on TV all the time. I don't think I've ever seen him slide feet first unless it was just like a double play. He was just getting down to get out the way. I would steal bases with him. He was on the base path. I was running from couch to couch in the house. I would, practice being him at the plate, act like I was in his mind to try to figure out what he was thinking when he was still in baseball. So not only was I watching him, but I was trying to actually be him, be in the moment. So when I finally got a chance to meet him, it was a funny story. We were in San Diego in 2002. First time I actually met him. I've seen him, played against him, but it was on the field. You can always say hello on the field. Uniform. It's a game situation. Hey, Rick, what's up? Nothing. I was like, I looked at the lineup. I got in early. I was like, no, I'm going to go in early, just in case. And I looked at the lineup. Sure enough, Rickey Henderson wasn't starting that day. And I was like, they always say Rickey works out. And I'm like, I'm going to go to the gym. I never go to the gym before the game, but I'll go down there just to see if he was in there. So I walk over to the gym, and, I'm kind of nervous because you feel kind of cheesy doing something like this. And I open up the door, and I put my head in, and Rickey's over there doing curls, and I kind of close it real quick. And I'm just like, oh, man, he's actually in there. Now, but he's a big leaguer, and I'm a big leaguer, so we have that mutual respect for each other. But at the same time, from the time I can remember watching baseball, I was watching Rickey Henderson, so it was a little different for me. So I walked in, he was doing his curls, and I went over, grabbed me a couple dumbbells, sat right next to him, kind of peeked over doing my curls, like, man, that's Rick. That's Rick. And I said hello, and I was like, yeah, Rick, you grew up with my dad, James Rollins. He was like, oh, James? Yeah, I remember James. Tell him I said what's up. So it wasn't even about me, but I was like, all right, well, that's a good story. But, I mean, it was just something that I just happened to take a chance, going to the field early, never go to the weight room, going to the weight room before the game, and sure enough, he was in. And that was the first meeting, casual, but it has definitely blossomed from there.
How did that affect you? Here you are, you've made it to the show, and you're still going out of your way, peeking in the door, trying to meet one of your heroes. When you interact with these young guys playing Babe Ruth baseball now, is that somewhere in your mind? You thinking about they look at you like you look at Ricky?
It hasn't. It hasn't, and it probably was the same way. You know, Ricky, as great as he is, you know, he still sees himself as a normal person because he is a normal person. You know, let truth be told, and I see myself as the same way. So when I'm around the kids, I try to make myself as normal as possible. Of course, they're going to be in awe at times and ask questions, sometimes just smile and not say anything, but, you know, you crack a joke or you do something silly, and they're like, oh, man, this is actually a person. It's not just some guy that I see on TV, and then they kind of loosen up. So that's probably the same thing Ricky did with me.
You're not the biggest guy in the world. Mm-hmm. Does that help with the little kids? And you're looking at them saying, you know what, you don't have to be 6'3", 240 pounds to play in the Major League.
I tell them that all the time. You know, baseball doesn't matter your weight or your height. If you have talent, they'll find a place for you. Of course, you're going to need an opportunity, but if you have enough talent, you know, first you got to have the check marks. You got to do good in school. You have to be able to get a scholarship somewhere for your academics and your athletics. Third, you have to be lucky enough to get drafted. And fourth, you have to be lucky enough to have an opportunity to make it to the big league. So there are a lot of things that have to go your way, but height isn't one requirement. You know, football, you got to be kind of big. You know, if you're not tall, you're going to have some traps and some legs and be able to run through somebody. Basketball, my height, you might as well just be riding up plays and telling the big guys what to do. But in baseball, you just got to have talent. And for my position, I'm short. I'm closer to the ground than a lot of tall guys.
We'll finish with this. You talked about your dad and Ricky. What effect did your parents have on you growing up playing ball? Talk about the role modeling of your parents, who have also been recognized by youth organizations for what they've done in the community.
Well, we can start with my mother. She was a softball player, and I think I may have been around 3 or 4 that I actually remember. We would be out there watching her play softball games, and of course we're just sitting on my dad's shoulders. So I'm sitting on my dad's shoulders. My brother, he probably running around somewhere acting crazy. And I'm really watching the game. And I remember watching my mom play softball, and that was my first memory of baseball. And all I wanted to do was get out there, but it was like, okay, you get out here, but just run around and pick up a couple balls. So we run and pick up a couple balls, and, of course, we get to play catch and try to swing a bat. I don't know if we ever swung a bat, but in my mind we swung a bat. And I think that's where my love came from, just watching my mom play, being around it. My dad was out there. He brought us out there, and we got to watch it for a lot of years. And then as I got older, my dad, you know, I mean, obviously he knew it was something I wanted to do. So he learned the game. He couldn't play baseball. He couldn't throw. Still can't. Well, I guess he could throw a little bit. He couldn't hit. I doubt if he can hit still to this day. But he was learning the mental approach to baseball. You know, the physical part, you know, with enough practice and enough talent, you're going to get that. But he would have us go to the games. I remember we were about 12 years old. We would, like, you know, from about 5 to 11, 5 to 10, we could go to the games and enjoy baseball. At about 11, 12, he said, okay, now tell me what's going on. And it was like, what do you mean tell me what's going on? Tell me what's happening in the ball game. I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to enjoy the game. I was just, man, Mark McGuire, Ricky Henderson, Carney Lansford, Dave Henderson, Dave Stewart. I mean, we could run off names. And I'm like, what do you need to know? It's obvious what's going on. And then I understood what he was asking me. Situation, what would you do? Situation, why do you think they did that? Why did he run? Why didn't he run? How would you have made that play? And then baseball really became open. It wasn't just going out there hit and run. It was like, whoa, this is a whole other side of baseball. So I would take that knowledge when I'm playing, and I think that's what always made me a little more advanced than the kids at the time, because my dad made me sit there and study the game. Not just watch baseball, not playing on Nintendo or PlayStation, whatever we had at the time, study the game. What's going on? Then, if he wasn't at the game, he'd be watching at home, and he'd have us come home and tell us, like, he was giving a report, what happened. And you really have to give a report. Now, it didn't work out that smoothly, because I was still like, we won or we lost. You know, you seen it. And then, but like I said, as I kept going to baseball games, I really understood what he was asking and understood the mental side and the mental approach to the game.
Well, Jimmy Rollins, reigning National League MVP, as well as the inaugural recipient of the Alumni Babe Ruth Baseball Lifetime Achievement Award. Congratulations and good luck to you tonight. And good luck in the playoffs, 'cause I know it's going to happen. That's going to do it for us today. We'll see you right back here next time for another great edition of Clubhouse Gas.